Chapter 94. Obviously I pull my blow on Lynn, not wanting to hurt her or myself. I'm not moving as fast as I can, I'm not stabbing as directly at a vital as I might otherwise. Yet when my mom flashes me a contemptuous grin and easily steps to the side, I start to wonder if I'm about to once again get a lesson on arrogance. Even with the way my soul's core grows much denser than a human's does, I have significantly surpassed the size of my mother's soul. Lynn is powerful, extremely powerful by most metrics, really, but I suspect if I really put my back into it I could rip her from her flesh with only minimal trouble. That is the skill I am best at, the skill that I use most often, and my most devastating offensive capability. As I make another lunge, which Lynn sidesteps by barely an inch without seeming the slightest bit worried, I can't help but be a little tempted to use that power. I don't, of course. This is about landing a hit on her, and she is trying to prove that I can't. I'm not interested in just sitting back and letting someone walk over me. I have recently reached the next stage in what I sort of think of as my life cycle, considering that the first step was hatching from a soul egg. I am a bit proud of my advancement, happy I finally get to stop using my hideous, inefficient muscles for everything. I want to prove my superiority. I want to beat her. To my annoyance, however, it is clear that Lynn is very, very good at dodging. So obvious. She taunts stepping around another stab and punching me just under the ribs. I barely feel it, and try to grab her with my free hand only to watch her leap out of the way again, cackling all the while. Damn it. I should be stronger than her. It doesn't help that I have much less practice using a knife than I do with using my spear. Lynn doesn't even feel that fast, it's just that she seems to always be barely fast enough to avoid whatever it is I'm doing. I could maybe surprise her by suddenly using my full speed, but of course then I would have to go see Penelope to get my body unbroken again. Plus, I think there's another secret here. Despite how much I care for her, Lynn and I don't exactly talk a lot, and I don't even know what exactly her talent is. Or, as I'm starting to suspect, what her talents are. The longer we fight the more I'm sure she has two separate ones. One of them she keeps on a constant low purr, ramping it slightly up in power every time I lunge for her. I don't know what it is, other than clearly not being offensive. The other just turns on and off, and I'm pretty sure that's her speed talent. Whenever she makes a little burst of movement, that one flares. The problem is that, even though I know this in advance, I don't have any idea what to do about it. She's using both talents at once, which Capita never did, and both of them seem to be useful in a brawl. She's not trying to stab me, despite the knife in her hand. If anything, she's using it as a handicap, giving her one less arm to punch with. But I am still getting my butt kicked. You're trying to teach me that no matter how strong I am, I lose to someone whose talent is specific to the current situation, I deduce. No. Trying to teach you that you are slow as shit and I'm better than you, Lynn answers immediately. Roan face epimes, and I try to stab my mother again. Lynn laughs, dancing around me. Our fight is indoors, and the room is not very large, yet she always seems to have exactly as much space as she needs. Can't I box her in somehow? Get her into a corner? I start directing my thrusts, encouraging her to dodge closer and closer to the edge of the room. The moment I think she's cornered, though, she just vaults over me, sticking her tongue out at me as I track her through the air. Quit trying to fight me like I'm a monster. Lynn says. You know I have a brain too, right? I'm not going to move without a plan. She dashes in for the first time, and I jump back in surprise. Now all of a sudden, I'm the one cornered. It looks like she's going to punch me in the face, but she feints and brings up the knife instead. The blade barely kissing against the skin of my neck without drawing blood. Dead, she tells me, bursting backwards before I can stab her back. Does that count? I ask, grinding my teeth. Because if so, I burst forward again, lunging for another stab at bringing my tentacles into the mix as well. To my surprise, Lynn seems to notice and jump backwards, but I press the attack, and soon the only place she can dodge within the small room is inside my range. She avoids 5 of the 8 tentacles I try to grab her with, but 3 wrap around her and squeeze lightly. "Dead," I hiss back. "I'm surprised you dodged any." Lynn shudders, pawing at her belly as if trying to rub some warmth into it as I let her go. "Danger sense, remember? I can't see any of what you do, but if I listen to my instincts I can feel something is coming at me. So, point in your favor, I'll grant you. But you still haven't touched me." I scowl, tossing my knife to the side and flexing my fingers. "Fine," I growl, right before feeling the snap in my right leg as I lunge at Lynn as fast as I can. I'm not a knife fighter, as much as I should probably learn to use them a bit since I have them as a backup weapon. But ultimately, if I am going full power, I would rather not accidentally kill my mother with a blade. Her eyes go wide for an instant as I close the distance far faster than I have up to this point, but her surprise is not quite enough for me to capitalize on. I swipe at her, miss, then break my other leg, performing an instant change in direction. Penelope won't be happy, but she'll deal with it. I wrap the brakes with tentacles as a makeshift splint, bearing down on her again and very, very nearly catching her. She was surprised at my speed before but isn't now, bumping up the power in her own talent to compensate. That's fine by me. She's not moving at levels beyond my perception, and I don't need to keep up with her perfectly. I just need a particular kind of opening. If our family actually owned anything, everything in this room would have been destroyed by our engagement as we blast around, me always on the offensive. Rowan has been functionally forced out, he and many of the kids peeking hesitant pairs of eyeballs around the doorframe, trying to avoid becoming collateral damage. There's one more reason I dropped my knife, and I'm just waiting for Lynn to give me the chance to take advantage of it. She's right. She's not a beast, and I need to treat her as someone thinking a few steps ahead. If I can't dismantle her soul, I will dismantle her plan instead. What's politics like? I had once asked Penelope. Our team had been walking through the forest silently for a few hours, the monsters either fleeing in fear from me or dying instantly whenever they tried to engage. I was thoroughly bored and feeling safe enough to start a conversation. Penelope turned to me slowly, her languid glare and pattering soul indicating she was still a bit miffed about me telling the whole team that she had a crush on me. Still, she deigned to answer. "If Eric dropped an estimated 10,000 or so eggs on us," she said, which sounded like a complete non sequitur. But this was Penelope, so I knew she was going somewhere with this. The drops were all in groups, yes? About 50 to a couple hundred eggs per group. According to reports, our best guess as to what happens the moment those eggs start to hatch is that every single one of the newborn Vrothizo immediately tries to kill and eat all of the other ones. As soon as I finished reading that I thought to myself, damn. And here I've been trying to go to the forest to avoid politics. I blinked in confusion, but Nora immediately busted out laughing. Along with Mateo, of all people, though his hissy monster laugh seemed to kill the mood for everyone else. "I don't get it," I said. "I know," Penelope answered flatly. "But despite the laughter I do not at all mean it as a joke. Politics is about seeing how much aggressive cannibalism you can get away with in your path to power. Figuratively, I mean. While I would not be terribly surprised to learn of a noble engaging in literal cannibalism, I do not personally know of any." "That's good," I hedged. Penelope sighed. "Yes, Vita, the fact that our government does not openly engage in literal cannibalism is good. Anyway, on the subject of specifically vodka politics, I would have to describe the 3 major factions as the Royalists, the Church, and everyone else, really. Let's call them the mercantile faction, although they are, well, we are, I suppose, but if anyone asks, I'm a Royalist. They are only a faction insofar as being united by a common hatred of the other two and a general desire to leech specific powers from each of them. For example, the Church de facto controls the entire metal trade due to the religious significance of metal. Because it is the duty of the Templars to prevent a perception event, and perception events can be caused by an overabundance of metal in a single place, the Church has decided they therefore possess a divine mandate to control every single gram of metal on the market and micromanage who is allowed to buy any given amount of it. And if this sounds like an open power grab more so than an actual devotion to a deity, That's because it very certainly is. And yet somehow the audacious bastards actually get away with it. Nora scowled, but didn't respond. But you're asking about politics in general, aren't you? Penelope continued. The crux of the metaphor is thus, political power is finite. To acquire it, you must necessarily take it from others. The more people with power, the less power everyone has. It is possible to increase the maximum available quantity of political power, but to do so you have to actually contribute to society, and that tends to be rather more difficult than simply eating your rivals. Fortunately, or unfortunately depending on your proclivities, rather than soul-rending teeth politicians fight with schemes. To defeat a rival and claim their power, you must understand what they want, how they intend to get what they want, and how to make their methods of gaining what they want destroy them rather than help them. Considering the degree to which Vrothizo are single-mindedly obsessed with constantly eating every living thing they come across, I imagine the pleasure they get from the act of consumption may very nearly be comparable with that a politician gets from twisting a former rival into a pawn by correctly anticipating and manipulating their actions with indirect levers that cannot possibly be traced back to their original source. I blinked. Any chance you could maybe repeat all that but exclusively using words that a homeless street kid could understand? Penelope smiled a little. If you and someone else both want the same chunk of bread, Vida, true victory is not found in taking it from them, but in learning how to make them give it to you. She quickly glanced over at our trio of revenants. Generally without using animancy. My fight with Lynn continues, my attacks getting more and more reckless as I push to get my hands on her. Going bare-handed against someone with a knife tends to be a poor decision, but Lynn has been completely refusing to cut me, leaving her as the one with a handicap. At least until suddenly and without warning, this changes. I'm not stupid. I'll admit that I usually don't understand people very well, but a large part of that is me not putting any effort into it. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's hard to put effort into it, harder than it is to put effort into most things, and I feel very little desire to try, even if I know it would be helpful. But I'm still clever, I can still read emotions, and I'm still a trained conwoman. Lynn makes a jab towards my hand with her knife in order to force me to abandon the attack, and I barely avoid grinning in triumph. My recklessness is real, but it's calculated. I want her to think I'm taking advantage of the fact that she won't attack with her knife, but what I actually want is for her to commit to a defense with her knife so I can capitalize on it in a way I know she won't expect. I don't abandon my attack, doubling down and letting her blade impale my palm. From there I grab the hand holding the knife in my own, and it's over. She tries to squirm and escape, but while she may be faster than me I am much, much stronger. Despite the difference in size I force her to the ground. There, I hiss in triumph. Fooled you. Got you. I win. Lynn, breathing hard, glances at my hand before back up to my grinning face. That you did, she admits coolly. Was it worth it? I blink in surprise, not entirely understanding the question. Was what worth it? Well, you beat me in a fight, Lynn says again, and she doesn't feel like she thinks she's lost at all. It took 10 minutes of your time, plus a hand, and therefore however much effort it will be to get that healed. Assuming you don't start to bleed out. I extract my hand from her knife, blocking off the blood vessels so my hand is barely stained red from the initial stab and nothing else. I flex my fingers. I'll be fine, I insist, declining to mention that I also broke both of my legs. So you'll be fine, Lynn says. But was it worth it? Did you really have to take this fight? I goaded you into this. You didn't want to, but it didn't take much pushing to change that. And what do you get out of this? The satisfaction of knowing you can beat up your mother. I scowl. So. This was the lesson, I mumble. I thought you were trying to teach me to fight better. Lynn shrugs, getting up off the floor. Well, if I did that, that's great too. But what Rowan and I are really concerned about is more that you keep getting into fights in the first place. You've killed 13 people since Angelion, hun. That we know about. Have you thought about that at all? I know Rowan wants to give you the moral spiel, And I can't say I'm super happy about you using your talent that way, but I get that sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I've killed people on jobs before. I've hidden bodies, I've stabbed folks that probably don't deserve it. What I want to know is how much that's been eating you up inside, Vita. I want to know why you keep doing it. I want to know if it was worth it. I swallow, chewing a little on my lower lip. I didn't have a choice, I say quietly. Nora was going to forcibly take me into the church, or at least tell them about me. I would die, Mom. The Templars already tried to kill me once, they are just looking for an excuse. Lynn nods. What about the group that killed Angelian? A chill settles over the whole house, even the youngest of us icy with fury. Yes, I answer firmly. That was worth it. If anything, I should have killed them sooner. Lynn nods again. And the group with Capita? She asks. The whole fight with Capita, really? Was it worth it? I open my mouth and almost say yes, again, of course it was worth it. I had good reasons for what I was doing and the men I killed all pulled weapons on me. I just made a point of thinking about how I'm not stupid, however, so I think about it first instead. No, I conclude reluctantly. It all made sense at the time, but in retrospect I could have avoided the fight entirely. I nearly died fighting Capita and didn't actually get anything out of it other than a bit of information, which wasn't worth it. Lynn walks up close to me, patting me on top of the head. Okay. That's all I wanted to say, really. Don't forget why you became a hunter in the first place, kiddo. What? I became a hunter to eat monster souls and become strong. I'm not a kiddo, I insist again. Lynn smiles. Go back to your friend Penelope, she says. There's a hole in your hand, honey. I look down at my palm. Oh yeah. Nodding, I exit my home, lost in thought. Most of my life, the question of is a fight worth it has always been the same as can I win this fight, the answer to which was almost always no, so every other aspect of a fight was obviously not worth it. I lacked power, so I could not fight. Now I have power, so I do fight. And in the forest, that's a strategy that works pretty well. Monsters need killing, and if we can kill them without being hurt we generally always should. But that's not at all how people work, is it? There are other ways to deal with people, none of which I'm good at, but it's also simply much more difficult to know if I can win the fight. Monsters are stupid, so power is everything. People are not stupid, so power is just one of many tricks in the toolbox that can be used to hurt me or the people I care about. I know this, I'm just bad at it. I have no experience thinking this way. I had been considering avoiding Penelope in order to try and minimize the awkwardness of whatever is going on there. That's not going to cut it though, is it? Between how often I get myself hurt and how much I need the help of someone that can actually think about this stuff with any competence, I kind of need her, don't I? The realization doesn't rankle as much as I thought it would, at least. I'm okay with relying on Penelope, even if she can be weird sometimes. I sigh, opening up our lab and heading downstairs. Time to get another rant on why I shouldn't be breaking my own legs, I guess. Chapter 95. About a 10-day later, as I sit through the incredibly surreal experience of eating breakfast with my family, I'm mildly surprised to hear a knock on the door. Not in the sense that I don't see it coming, since of course I can feel a person approaching our house from anywhere within 1,000 yards, and this is especially notable when that person happens to be Penelope, but in the sense that this is not at all the time Penelope normally drops by every day. Penelope likes to stick to a firm schedule, and usually waits until about 4 or 5 hours after the end of night to perform the daily biomancy treatments for everyone. Day more or less just broke, and we're all sitting around a table preparing to chow down on the food that we have stored in our house. Even Vitamin has a meal ready for her, although I'm the only one that can prepare it. Seriously. We have spare food inside the house. Something freaks us all out about that, it just feels wrong. Shouldn't we be eating it, if for no other reason than to prevent someone else from coming by and stealing it all? But no, we have a house now, not a shack. It's made of stone, and people can't just push the door down. Lynn and Rowan are usually home instead of usually not home, and can kick the ass of anyone stupid enough to try and rob them. But actually we can just legitimately expect to not be robbed, because everybody nearby is in the same situation. Hell, if something bad happens to us, the guard might even actually help. Or at least Penelope says so, though we know better than to believe her. "Come in," I shout at her, and she lets herself in with her key. "What brings you around so early?" Penelope smirks. Unlike usual, she's got some kind of satchel around one shoulder, a fancy, rich, expensively dyed accessory that I've never seen her with before. "You have absolutely no idea what day it is today, do you?" she asks. I frown, trying to remember which island passes over us next. "Shattered Stones?" I answer. It's not so much an island as it is a collection of enormous boulders in the sky, but it blocks out the light when it passes over, so it still counts. "Correct," Penelope says happily. "Which means it is also." All of us stare blankly for a moment before my little brother Jari chimes in. Actually spending time with them has done wonders for helping me remember their names. "It's Weird Mask Day," he says. "Oh yeah. Weird Mask Day. Once a year all the rich people put this crap on their faces, and a bunch of fancy stalls get set up and tons of people all crowd the streets, and everything just becomes a smorgasbord for stealing. Weird Mask Day is a good day." Penelope chuckles, apparently thinking this is quite amusing. "It's the Skyhope Festival," she corrects. "The day celebrating the foundation of our city?" "Yeah, for sure," Lynn agrees. "Weird Mask Day. None of you seem terribly excited," Penelope pouts with fake disappointment. We shrug. We aren't supposed to steal things anymore, since Penelope is providing us food and whatnot, so it doesn't really impact us much. "It's kind of a rich people holiday," Basra dismisses. "Well," Penelope says, opening up her satchel and pulling out a spread of animal and monster masks, "how would you all like to be rich people for a day?" Squeals of excitement erupt from around the table, and before I know it breakfast has been devoured, everyone is masked up, and the family plus Penelope are dashing excitedly down one of the city's main thoroughfares, being greeted by stall owners with pleasant smiles rather than the suspicious glares we're used to. The street is loud and busy, exactly the sort of ideal place for pickpocketing. Today, though, we are here to have fun, so some of the kids actually resist the urge to do so. "Thanks again for doing this, Penelope," Lynn says from behind her smiling cat mask. "Honestly, I've had no idea what to do with the kids lately. They are all used to being cooped up at home, but now that they aren't starving to death they seem to have all kinds of energy that they didn't before. Makes parenting a little harder." "Funny how that works," Penelope answers dryly. She picked an intricate snake mask for herself, each scale delicately carved into the wood. "I suppose I could always stop feeding them, if it's too much trouble." "Well, I'll think about it," Lynn jokes. "Seriously though. Thank you so much. You are pretty much the best thing that will ever happen to them. There's no way we can possibly repay you, you know." I don't need to see Penelope's face to know that she's smirking. "Oh, I'm sure I'll find something for someone with your skills to do." Lynn laughs. "Not so much of an altruist after all, huh?" she asks. "Am I not? I imagine you're dying to have some way to spend your time," Penelope responds coyly. "Your boyfriend makes a better homebody than you do. Surely finding you some work is but another favor?" That makes my mom laugh even harder, and she slaps me on the back. "Vida, catch this one while you can, I want to make sure she sticks around." "Okay?" I answer hesitantly, not quite sure I understand. Then a flash of embarrassment passes through Penelope, and I figure it out, causing the same to happen to me. "I'll leave you two alone then," Lynn taunts, placing her hand on my head and rubbing around a little before running off. "Katie? Honey, we pay for those now." With Rowan already off wrangling some of my other siblings and Vitamin staying close to him in case anyone gets suspicious of her, that does indeed leave Penelope and I alone. That used to be relaxing, but now it's just weird. What's with everybody pushing me into, well, whatever it is I'm being pushed into? I don't want to think about it. I like Penelope. I do. I just don't. So, how do you like your mask? Penelope asks quickly, interrupting my train of thought. I had it custom made. I reach up to feel the art strapped to my face. I hardly need her to tell me that she had it made especially for me, considering what it is. A great blue eye, wrapped up in tentacles so that it's barely peeking out from behind, shyly peering at the world with an abnormally piercing gaze. The tendrils are wrapped around each other as well, intertwined and swirling in complex, beautiful patterns. It's a depiction of my soul, obviously, and though the wood and dye are a pale imitation of the real thing, I can't deny that I love it. I love it a lot. It's good, I mumble. Thank you. Satisfaction fills her, both from my joy and from the usual smugness she feels from being right about something. It relaxes me a bit. It's not attraction, not really. She's just happy I'm happy, and I'm happy to be happy about that. Any of the stalls catch your interest? Penelope asks. Smell any food you want? Any games you want to try? Not picky about food, I answer, shrugging. You know that. I see a cup stall, over there. That might be worth a laugh. Penelope raises an eyebrow, and I lift an arm to point after briefly trying to indicate the direction with a tentacle. Unfortunately, it's not safe for Penelope to have the soul sight spell active in public. If a metamancer saw it and knew what they were looking at, we'd immediately be in trouble. Penelope can't use the metal tattoo strategy either, because she might actually be under some scrutiny, and the magic we use to block other people from detecting our magic is apparently also illegal, at least to have on an individual. We're only risking it on Vitamin because she is illegal anyway. That ball and cup game? Penelope asks. Sure, if you like. Why? Roan used to run games like that all the time, I tell her. I helped out for a while before becoming a hunter. It's how our family used to get most of our money. Anyway, I know all the tricks, so it should be a fun and easy win. Well, I do like winning, Penelope agrees with a nod. Lead the way. We push through the crowd, a somewhat slow and frustrating endeavor for someone as short as I am. Honestly, it's kind of a miracle I can see any of the stalls behind the massive celebrating people. At first, moving around was pretty stressful, not because everybody is huge and in my way, I'm used to that, but because every once in a while someone in my range nearby will randomly freak out as if they're under attack. That raises my hackles, and I have to try and figure out how much danger we're in before inevitably figuring out that they're scared of me. Everybody with a danger sense goes on high alert when I walk nearby, which is starting to get a little annoying. Thankfully, most people do not have one, so I should be fine. We get in the line for the cup stall, which thankfully isn't very long. It's much fancier than Roan's ever was, though, with a big sign and a rack of prizes that you can win sitting behind the guy running the games. He's clearly a bit of a weasel, what with a murky, shifty soul that's slippery and hard to see through. I don't blame the guy, though. Sometimes you just have to make an honest living by cheating everyone else out of their money. The game is set up a little differently from Roan's, the premise being that you could bet 3, 6, or 12 in a row, with the expectation that each game of cups would get progressively harder. If you get every single game that you bet correctly, you win a prize, with better quality more games in a row you got. Well, that's cute, Penelope says, pointing at one of the prizes. A stuffed little disciple. Perhaps Roscoe would like a friend. Roscoe is a loner, I answer matter-of-factly. He needs no friends, only hugs. But what is he supposed to get hugs from, if not a friend? Penelope counters. I hum, considering this. She makes a very valid point. Penelope truly is a master of rhetoric. 12 games please, I tell the stand owner, dropping the cotton coins for it on the counter. And someone takes the 12-game challenge. The stand owner announces loudly, trying to gather as much attention and spectacle as he can to try and draw in more customers. Could this little girl be the first person today to get 12 in a row? 15, I correct. He prompts, confused. I'm going to get 15 in a row, I tell him. Just to humiliate you for calling me little girl. Penelope gets a flush of excitement over that, causing me to regret it a little, but some things I refuse to stand for. The cups guy grins a showman's grin, and we're off to the races. The first few games are pathetically easy, but of course that's part of how he gets customers. The more people watch the 12 set, the more people are going to think they can easily do 3 in a row, which will end up harder than they expected from watching me. Of course, even if they succeed, the amount of money they pay to play the game isn't worth the prize they get, so it's really a win-win for the guy. The speed he can move the cups around is legitimately impressive, and after the 5th game I wouldn't be surprised if many normal people would lose track of the ball even if he wasn't cheating. After the 8th game, of course, the cheating comes out and he secretly palms the ball before moving it into a new cup once or twice during the rotation. Obviously, I'm also cheating, having reached out with a tentacle and put a small soul shard in the ball, as well as the backup balls he occasionally replaces it with. Every round I point at the correct cup immediately, without even bothering to look his way, enjoying how increasingly flustered he becomes as a result. He starts using kinemacy after the 11th game, and considering how stressed he is about it I imagine he probably doesn't have a license. It's actually kind of interesting watching him do it with all 3 eyes, since my soul eye doesn't use light to see and is totally unaffected by the illusion, while my physical eyes see whatever his spell wants me to see. Thankfully, he doesn't use illusions to mask the end result, only to make it look like cups are spinning in places where they actually aren't, so I don't need to call him out on his cheating in order to win. He's smart enough to cut his losses. After all 15 games, I become the proud owner of a new tentacular stuffed animal, which I squeeze snugly while mentally promising to make it up to Roscoe with some double hugs. "Your name is Germain," I tell my new friend, and then put him on my head as a hat. The little stuffed tentacles wrap around my scalp snugly and securely. Penelope says nothing, and I pointedly ignore her cacophony of embarrassing emotional reactions. Mostly because they are embarrassing for me, not for her, though I know in my heart of hearts I don't actually have a reason to be embarrassed. Stuffed animals, particularly Roscoe's, are the ideal companion and friend, and I will not deign to pretend otherwise. When you hug a stuffed animal you get all the comfort of a proper cuddle without having to worry about getting touched in weird places, or if the other person is sick, or if they are about to put a knife in your back, or if they are just trying to steal something from you. I do not at all like being put in a position of vulnerability, but with a stuffed animal I am always safe and in control. It is a welcome change from the constant, ever-present danger of normal life. Penelope and I continue to enjoy festival games, though neither of us find any of them very interesting unless we can use our abilities to handedly win, which is always quite entertaining. I also keep slurping down endless piles of sweet and fatty festival food, which Penelope refuses to stop buying for me, and I find myself unable to protest against that attitude on principle. I definitely like food, and as long as I eat it slowly enough maybe I won't get full before I run out of it. Honestly, things are going really great. At least until we step into an alleyway to take a break from the crowds and a certain familiar soul suddenly pops into existence beside us. I jump back and draw my spear, glowering ineffectively at a pink-haired, fox-masked crazy lady who I can only assume has been waiting just outside my sensory range for precisely this opportunity. "Hello again, friend," Capita says cheerfully, waving with excited energy. "Can't I celebrate with you too?" Chapter 96, Capita, I growl, spear still raised. "What are you doing here?" She doesn't feel hostile, but emotionally, Capita is one of the most complicated people I've ever tried to read. Something about being two fragments of a person spliced together makes it difficult for me to understand her as a singular entity, as her emotional responses are spread between two souls that demonstrate those responses in very different ways. Not to mention the purple ooze between them which sort of acts like a third soul fragment and sort of doesn't. In short, Capita is just different from every other person I've ever met, to such a large degree that I will need to spend more time around her before I can pick up the skills necessary to understand what she's feeling. In the meantime, she's a wild card, and I don't trust her. Though in classic wild card fashion, she immediately does something absurd. Who? Capita asks. If you seek to get ahead, you'll find no such head here. I am the fox. I blink. Did she forget who she is again or something? No, wait, she called me a friend. And I did sort of promise to be her friend. Mostly because I was getting information out of her, but still. I might be able to just kill her as I am now. But then Sky would come after me for sure, and he would without question be coming for the kill. I'm not ready to fight Sky yet. So, fighting here isn't worth it, I guess. I distinctly recall our agreement with your boss being that you would not bother us, Penelope says from behind me, her voice venomous. Does a friend bother a friend when saying hello? Capita giggles. I mean, a fox makes no agreements. I know not of this boss you speak, for I am just a wandering companion. I don't think she has her story straight, Penelope deadpans. What do you want? I ask. Listen. The work of art. I mean, life must listen. The fox has already told you her purpose, has she not? It is a day of celebration. What better time to make merry with friends? I sigh, putting my spear away. Sorry, I don't know a fox. But if you see my friend Capita, be sure to send her my way. She reacts with apparent shock, scrambling to fix her story. What a weirdo. I am, arguably maybe, if one were to look behind the mask, which may I say is against the spirit of this wonderful holiday, potentially perhaps possibly someone named Capita, she whimpers. And therefore, as per the terms of our non-aggression pact, you are supposed to leave us alone, Penelope repeats flatly. We were having a nice day. But, Capita retorts, I might also not be someone named Capita. Why aren't you with Sky? I ask her. Shouldn't you be spending the holiday with him? Isn't it normal to spend holidays with your lover, or something? Mild surprise and massive amounts of embarrassment erupt from Penelope at that. Why the heck? I don't get her sometimes. What about what I said would? Oh, I will. Also spent time today with Sky, Capita protests defensively. But is it not also a wonderful thing to, you can come with, I answer her. Capita absolutely lights up with joy. It's easy to feel even with how strange her soul is. It's also easy to see, because she starts hopping up and down and clapping her hands while making an excited screeching noise. Penelope steps next to me, lips pursed in frustration about the introduction of this third party. So it's as I thought. I make a quick decision, one that I hope I don't end up regretting later. I think we might want to introduce her to another friend of ours, I murmur to Penelope. That gets her back on track, picking up on my meaning immediately. Theodora. If Capita really is as friendly as she claims, we stand to gain a lot by having Theodora watch her use her talents. Teleportation magic is unfathomably rare, and Theodora's ability to rapidly convert any magic she sees into a usable spell is equally absurd. It's difficult to abuse considering that we can't allow most people to know Theodora exists, but since Capita is an animancer she is unlikely to take offense at all of the animancy I've been doing. Speaking of, she is and continues to be our best link to conomancy, and Theodora's ability to copy that could advance our research tremendously. This has been part of our goal from the start, the only difference being that originally I was going to bring in Capita as a revenant. Penelope nods back. So she thinks the risks are worth it? A living Capita that we can't know the loyalties of is a significant risk, but perhaps if we spend a day with her I can figure out her soul enough to know whether she is being upfront enough with her intentions. More importantly, this also turns today into a day about accomplishing goals rather than possibly having a date, which I am so much more comfortable with. Such a joy it is for the palate to have the art. Capita coos, spinning with dance-like movements between strangers and the crowd when we return to the street. My every smear evidence of a greater perfection. We make our way to the next game, where we are apparently supposed to throw discs at targets. The discs, naturally, seem to randomly wobble off course. Obviously the person behind the stall just has a weak kineticism talent, but he's subtle enough with it that people don't seem to notice. Unless those people are watching his soul use it, that is. Do you seriously think that I was made artificially, let alone by the same person as you. I grumble at Capita's sing-song musings. We are nothing alike. Honestly, if I'm trying to win her allegiance, I probably shouldn't argue against her assertion that we are both made by some sort of artist. The idea just pisses me off, though. She's two souls chopped in half and glued together. It's a hackneyed job at best, a blind flailing at worst. I can sort of see how it works, the more I look at it. The two souls aren't communicating properly, because they can't. The way each of them functions, the pathways each of them uses, are fundamentally incompatible with one another, at least on the level required to be a person. The purple goop in the middle acts as both an adhesive to prevent Capita from just falling the fuck apart but also as a translator. A shitty translator. The soul have sent garbled, incomplete messages to each other, expecting to find their actual counterparts on the other end to help complete the thought. But there is nothing there, nothing that can understand them, so the message has to pass through the middle and get interpreted by something that barely knows the language before getting spat out the other end. It's no wonder she's crazy. Why would the palette look like the masterpiece? Capita counters. Why would a sketch bear resemblance to a painting? The signature left on us is the same. That is all that matters. I scowl, paying the stall owner with Penelope's money and tossing a disc. As expected, it misses. I still don't like the implication that Capita and I are both created by some singular person. It feels insulting to be compared to her. Besides, if what you say is true, we're not really friends, are we? I wonder out loud. We would be more like sisters. I try to toss a second disc, but the stall owner doesn't even need to cheat as my throw is knocked wildly off course when Capita grabs me in a crushing hug, instantly sending my whole body into fight or flight. Danger. Danger, 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 danger. Sister? Capita squeals. Oh, yes. Yes, yes. For the most beautiful of all paintings to accept a family of sketches, there could be no greater joy. Get off me. I shout, driving the base of my palm up into her chin hard enough to feel something crack in her face. She just keeps on giggling, though, giving me one final squeeze before I force her away. The commotion earns us quite a few stares from other people in and around the stall. But with her having let go I quickly calm myself back down. There is no danger, she's just weird. I return to throwing and soon the interest in us dissipates. Each disc wobbles in the air before moving realistically off course. It's a pretty good con, and I didn't expect myself to be annoyed by it, but I'm starting to get frustrated. When I have only 3 throws left, I poke a tendril into the body of the stall owner and tap his soul as I throw, causing him to jump in sudden terror and allowing me to get a hit on the target. I grin at him. That'll teach them. An exasperated and for some reason slightly curious Penelope grabs and sets Capita's jaw as I make my second-to-last throw, though to my frustration the stall owner has not learned this lesson and he knocks it off course again. Annoyed, I tap his soul a second time and, without really thinking about it, try to push a bunch of my mana into it. I fail at first. But now I'm kind of interested in seeing what happens so I push harder and force myself inside. It's odd. I can still move the mana around as if it was in me, although it's substantially more difficult. If I wanted to, I could probably damage or break his soul like this. Not that there would be any point. Pushing mana into his soul took a lot more work than just ripping it out would have, and I bet it would be comparably more difficult for anyone with a stronger soul as well. He places a hand over his sternum, surprised at the feeling but other than the tentacle touch not terribly disquieted by it. How odd. I throw my last disc and, still somehow not suspicious enough to just let me, the stall owner's soul activates his talent and starts shaping some mana. Specifically, he shapes my mana. It acts just like I've seen the Mistwatcher's mana act, except without the unruly, almost angry vibrations I've come to expect from someone channeling. He executes the talent normally, my mana gets consumed in the spell which annoys me, but I don't do anything about it and the disc is knocked off course as per usual. Interesting. There's even a little bit of my mana left over inside him, since the spell is all finesse and almost no power. The amount left over isn't enough for a second use of his talent, though. I didn't give him very much. He starts channeling mana to activate his talent for one of the other people throwing discs, doesn't have enough of mine, and so pulls in some of the mana from outside. A muffled screech sounds from inside his chest as the two kinds of mana collide and he collapses in pain. Whoops. Are you okay? I ask hesitantly. I really hadn't intended to do that. I hope he didn't get hurt. He waves me off, insisting that he is fine and giving me the one-hit prize, some cheap ring made of twine. I give Penelope a pleading glance and she correctly figures out that whatever happened was entirely my fault, so she offers to check the guy anyway. He agrees, because when a biomancer offers you a free checkup you fucking say yes. Afterwards, Penelope says he only had a mild case of something called heartburn, which sounds absolutely terrifying, but she acts like it's not really that serious of a condition. Also, she's lying, presumably because we are in public and the answer isn't the kind of thing we say here. I'll have to ask her about it in private later. Then the three of us leave together, a fascinated Capita having watched the entire thing with apparent glee. Experience begets wisdom, wisdom begets progress, she chirps, failing to hold back a few more giggles. Have you become wiser, littlest sister? I scowl. That had better not be a short joke. I'm 4'10" now. I don't know how tall I used to be, but I'm going to choose to believe that I'm growing. Capita. You're going to tell Sky pretty much everything we do today, right? I ask. She stiffens, with what I think is a mixture of surprise and embarrassment. I'm getting pretty good at figuring people out, so I'll probably crack her soon enough. No pun intended. Few secrets survive a lover's bed, she hesitantly admits. But so too does a family gossip at dinner. Penelope, I ask my friend, is there anything we care about Sky knowing? She thinks for a moment, then sighs. No, I suppose not. It's mutually assured destruction if he informs on us, considering how guilty he is of the same crimes. We may as well return now, if this vapid, pink-haired prat is going to ruin the holiday for us either way. Capita titters, hand over her mouth as she uses her other hand to pat the top of Penelope's head, which surprises the biomancer so thoroughly that I get to witness nearly a full second of her flailing to bat away Capita's arm before she primly steps around to the other side of me and starts plotting revenge like a proper noble instead. I grin behind my mask, because I know Penelope is blushing behind hers. Fear not, O lady of bubbles and glass, Capita coos. I would never harm you. I'm not afraid of you, mad thing, Penelope hisses. I just don't want you to touch me. Capita laughs again. Of course, of course. An honor reserved only for one. But how does a mortal catch infinity? By leaving bait without a trap, Penelope counters, and the conversation officially starts going above my head. You think a god is like a stray that you can feed until it comes on command. Capita says, and then suddenly starts laughing even harder. So to speak. The discordant tune of Penelope's soul plays a sliding, rising note of embarrassment. With the right food? Penelope asks, not a hint of her true feelings in her serious tone. Yes, if you know what they're hungry for. But that would require some capacity to understand the world around you, wouldn't it? Would the two of you quit with the riddles? I snap. I don't have any idea what you're saying. I suspect the lady knows that well, Capita taunts, but Penelope just scoffs and doesn't rise to what I assume was a jab at her. The three of us soon break away from the bustling festival streets and slink towards our laboratory, letting Capita inside. We make our way downstairs and call out the all-clear to Team Metamancy. Theodora and Margaret emerge soon after, reacting with surprise when they see us but not for the reason I was expecting. Why are you all wearing masks? Theodora asks, seeming a little worried. It can't be Skyhope Day already, can it? I'm afraid it can be, Penelope answers. Why? Is something the matter? She scratches the back of her neck, seeming temporarily lost. No, it feels like it hasn't been anywhere near that long since I woke up down here. I frown, moving my mask away from my face as Capita and Penelope do the same. I guess my revenants have sort of been stuck down here for a really long time, haven't they? They have no way to know when it's day or night, they don't get tired, and they have plenty of work to distract themselves with. It must be odd to have the world slip by unannounced. Vitamin seems to be blending in okay thanks to the tattoos you gave her, I say. Maybe we can get you two some time off as well. Let you see the sky and stuff. Yes, let's do that, Penelope agrees, though apparently quite reluctantly considering all the risks for what she sees as very little gain. But not right now. Theodora, Margaret, this is Capita. She is a splice and a conomancer. Capita, by any chance would you be willing to demonstrate your abilities for us? Capita tilts her head. For my youngest sister, I would be honored. But to mold a mind I need a mind to mold. The dead will not do. Oh, I wouldn't worry, Penelope says, motioning for all of us to follow her into the room where we keep Sky's gift. We have a volunteer. We file in, a bound and gagged man, doomed from the moment he had failed in Jillian, looking increasingly terrified as each of us enters. Capita grins a Vulpin grin that would have fit just as easily on her fox mask. This will do nicely, she agrees, and we start to learn the most illegal of all blasphemies. Chapter 97. You don't need to do anything, Theodora. You just need to watch. Ironically, the person least excited to be performing animancy is one of the two people here who happens to be animated by it. Theodora seems to quite enjoy the biomancy research she and Penelope have been getting up to most of every day now, but messing with a living man's soul crosses a line for her, apparently. Penelope, who has been trying to convince her to help, turns slightly to give me a meaningful look. I suppose it would be trivial to get Theodora to help. As poorly as my shard has integrated with her soul, it's still in her and she cannot change that. Not unless, ironically, she learns animancy. And she knows that. It's part of why she agreed to help us. Seeing the terror of the man we have tied up in our basement who we intend to use as a learning experience, however, has given her cold feet. Still, it's clearly best for her to stay. Having her watch here would help us out immensely, and it would also bring her closer to her own goals of being free from me. Don't look at me, I say. I'm staying neutral on this. My whole life I've had to fight to keep the clothes on my back. Every trinket, every coin, every chunk of bread that was ever mine was a struggle against death. Everything I call my own is precious to me, be it a home, an object, or a person. Theodora is mine, and she wants to make her own choices. So I'm going to let her. Though ironically, that seems to be the best way to control her. Thank you, Vita, Theodora says, her appreciation giving my shard the purchase to grow deeper within her. Penelope, you have to know this isn't the animancy that we wanted to make. This isn't something I want to be able to do. I don't disagree, Penelope answers soothingly, an expertly crafted smile on her lips. It's a horrible temptation, one that we would be better off without. But we have been making no headway. One must understand the basics before they can develop their own methods, is that not so? Margaret stands next to me, even less inclined to join the conversation than I am. Her mix of irritation and open jealousy in Theodora's direction is probably caused by how she considers Theodora's valuable talent to be rightfully hers. Margaret told us back in Lisha that she had to fight dozens of her own kin for supremacy inside Theodora's body. It must have been one of the first things she ever did after being born, considering that at the time every Nora besides Penta and the one controlling Remus would have been less than a couple 10 days old. What must it be like to have someone else's memories but consider them all your own? You know I hate when you're right about these things, Penelope, Theodora grumbles. And you know I rely on you to make sure I really am right, Penelope responds, her words both truth and carefully calculated manipulation. If I am wrong somewhere, you're the one I need to point it out. No, you're right, Theodora sighs. Of course you're right, and you're going to do it whether I help or not anyway, aren't you? Fine. She glances hesitantly at me, but starts casting monocyte and, for the first time while I'm around, soul sight. Though she avoids looking my way. Okay. Capita says cheerfully, clapping her hands once. Now is the family blasphemy session, yes? That's one way to put it, Margaret snorts. So would you be anti-capita in this fucked-up found family? I raise an eyebrow at her. I don't remember adopting Margaret. Vitamin said we're sisters, Margaret answers defensively. I guess I stand corrected, apparently I have adopted Margaret. She gasps and hops excitedly as I smash a small chunk of myself and pass her the resulting soul dust. I can't help but crack a grin at the sight. The former slimes are quite easy to please, and it never stops being cute. Let's begin, Penelope says, attempting to get everyone back on track. Capita nods, a grin splitting her face as tiny purple threads of soul creep out from her broken core. She turns to face our bound and gagged victim, who squirms futilely at the attention. A man looks in the mirror, Capita intones, stepping forward and leaning close to the bound man, and he sees his reflection. He does this often, always checking, lest he forget what he looks like. She wraps one hand around the struggling man's neck, though she does not squeeze. His fear alone causes his struggles to cease, and he stares at her in motionless terror. Why does he check? Perhaps he is obsessed. Perhaps he is cursed. But always, he checks the mirror, over and over, and what he sees there he knows to be himself. But what happens when I change the reflection? Her threads slip into the disgusting soul of the man who failed my family, slithering in through minuscule cracks and channels, like a snake hunting moles within their own tunnels. She pushes into him, violates him, and prepares to break him from the inside. Shall I make the reflection look like a frog? Capita coos. I could do so, but no matter how beautifully the reflection croaks, what would happen when the man sees it? If your mirror showed you a frog, would you believe yourself to be a frog? No. You still have the wisdom of a man. But if your skin was just a little greener, your tongue just the tiniest fraction longer, would you notice? Or would you believe what you see in the mirror to be strange, new, but still clearly you? Wait, Conomancy can't actually turn people into frogs, can it? I ask. No, obviously not. She's just saying major changes don't take, Penelope explains. Capita frowns, swaying slightly as her soul sparks, trying to form her thoughts into something coherent. No. The mirror is important, she insists. The mirror is always there. What separates conomancy and necromancy is the presence of the man. The dead are but a reflection, burned into glass. Twist the reflection, and there is no viewer to disbelieve the mirror. Necromancy is power, necromancy is control. Whereas conomancy is subtlety, conomancy is patience. It is to make an illusion so real it ceases to be an illusion at all. Yes? I frown, trying to parse that. You're saying that, if I could put one of my shards into someone currently alive, it wouldn't make them devoted to me because they would be able to. What? Notice that something was affecting them and change their soul back? Capita gives me a smile of confirmation, her hand briefly squeezing tight around the man's neck as his shivers of discomfort start becoming more serious twitches. Her hold lightens again when he calms down, enabling the man to take a gasp of air. Perhaps. The living have two selves, the mirror and the man. Each can change the other. This is how people grow. To mold and control a mind, we do not force the result, we control the growth. Penelope nods thoughtfully. That makes a lot of sense. Biomancy is similar, in that making massive or rapid alterations to the body only does more harm than good. Biomancy's spells must be applied with patience, as their effects take a while to bear fruit. Capita nods back happily. Except perhaps for the masters of our disciplines, this is so. The artist's skill is incomparable to his sketches, but I only teach you what I know. To that end. Watch. Her threads have invaded deep into the soul at this point, and one has finally found what she seems to have been looking for. The tip of the thread digs into the soul, carving a purple gouge inside it. Theodora flinches. Scratch the reflection. Simplicity itself, Capita hums, turning to smile at Theodora. Do you see, scholar's soul? That is the first spell. Slowly, Theodora nods, her eyes flicking in different directions as her talent rapidly processes information in a way that no one else can. It's not It's not 100% replicable, Theodora mutters slowly. Whatever you are doing to reach into the soul isn't a spell, only the scratch is. Capita nods. The soul is a plant. Mana is water, the body is soil. You hold power over fruit, but not the plant itself. There are some things only your queen's ilk can grow. But, fear not, the artist did his weaving without a single thread. There is a way, though I cannot teach it. Theodora swallows, her body going through with a nervous gesture despite no longer being able to make a single drop of saliva or digest a single grain of wheat. Vodka is a king, she says. Capita shrugs. You don't. As interesting as this all is, Penelope interrupts, we ultimately do not care very much about using conomancy to control people. We are only interested in acquiring the spells necessary to manipulate a living soul, regardless of whether the manipulation affects personality or memory. Ultimately, we want to be able to remove and replace souls from one body into another without harming or killing them, not any of the rest of this. If anything, we want to be able to remove the sorts of manipulations you describe. Capita quickly cycles through a surprise, consideration, and excitement as Theodora sends Penelope a thankful look. A pleasant ambition, Capita giggles. Then I shall cut my lessons as short as my sister, and skip to the meat. Hey! I snap. She laughs, and from there she moves on to a series of quicker demonstrations, adding and removing parts of the soul at Theodora's request. Penelope watches intently, only occasionally glancing my way to look me in the eye with soul sight active. It's embarrassing, but I focus on Capita's lessons, learning everything I can about conomancy. A couple hours later, Capita declares that she's shown everything she has to offer, to which Penelope asks her to demonstrate her teleportation talent as well. For this favor, Capita answers slowly, I would wish a favor returned. Not content to offer anything to your little sister after all. Penelope presses. Penelope, don't call me that, I grumble. 'Tis not the work of art to request this of me, and 'tis not her I request the favor from. O woman of armored heart, noble master of the body, I wish from you a boon. Penelope raises an eyebrow. I assume you mean me? Her face remains impassive as she starts rapidly deciding exactly how much she'd be willing to trade for a teleportation spell. What exactly do you want? Capita scratches her cheek, embarrassed and hesitant. I am of the understanding that you, too, are an artist. One of flesh, rather than spirit. I would not describe myself as such, but much of my personal wealth has been gained from spells I use to manipulate appearance, if that's what you mean, Penelope answers tersely. Were you looking for a makeover? Yes. Capita murmurs, but not for me. I beseech you to shape the sky. She nervously taps her fingers together while Penelope makes a slow, incredulous blink. Your lover and I openly despise each other, Penelope points out. Ease? Capita hedges, but what if you didn't? Just like that? Penelope answers flatly. Oh, of course, let's break out the scones and tea for the person that wants to kill my entire family. We'll sing nursery rhymes and play hopscotch together right before you both assassinate the king. Yes. Capita agrees happily. Yes, exactly. And then he won't kill you and then none of us have to be sad. My eyes narrow, tentacles clenching for war. So he plans to kill Penelope? He'll regret ever even thinking about it. Penelope, for her part, just gives an unimpressed huff. You will be sorely disappointed if you attempt to convince me with threats, she says firmly. Not threats. Capita insists. Fears. The sky is as vast as his anger. But you are the work of arts. You must be spared, and, well, you are one of the few that could change wrath to gratitude. It is. For both of you. Please? Sky doesn't even know you're asking this, does he? I realize. Favor to me, Capita agrees. But all for him. Please, Flesh Shaper. Make him himself. Penelope pinches the bridge of her nose. Assuming you can even put the two of us in the same room without starting a fight, what do you want me to do exactly? Make your lover look more like a man? It's obvious that Sky isn't even a man in the first place. I blink my eyes in surprise as Capita narrows hers dangerously. He is, she insists. Is that really a lie you want to tell to someone you're asking to perform biological modifications? Penelope fires back immediately. Honestly, think long and hard on that one. I know you need time to get your head working. Capita hesitates at that, drumming her fingertips together as her soul struggles to come to a decision. Are there not famous true nobles that opted not to disclose the content of their trousers? Capita murmurs in answer, squirming uncomfortably. Yes, quite a few, but I imagine they still told any biomancer that needed to muck around with their hormones. Penelope snaps. The scale of the task alters rather drastically depending on whether or not your lover has any testicles. I can't give you an answer unless I know. Capita scowls, refusing to look Penelope in the eyes. He is a he, she insists. Okay. Fine. Penelope snaps. But. His second belly button might be more of an innie than an outie, she hedges. You guys are doing the thing again, I grumble. Could someone explain? Capita gives me a worried smile, increasingly uncomfortable to have to explain any of this and terrified of what my answer will be. His soul does not match his body, Capita says. Oh. Yeah, I feel that, I answer honestly. That really sucks. I think your situation might be a little different, Vita, Penelope says dryly. Anyway, my answer is no. Capita makes a pleading face. What? Why? Because you can't afford my time, Penelope says, crossing her arms. I've done something like this once before, you know. It wasn't easy, it wasn't complete, and it wasn't worth the paltry sum exchanged for either me or my client because most of what I did started reverting itself, at least partially, without continuous treatment. Which they couldn't pay for. One favor isn't worth the time you're asking of me if you expect me to cast on Sky every other day, and if you want me to do anything permanent I will need time to research it. It will take months of my time, at minimum. And if you haven't noticed, my research schedule is currently rather busy. I only half listened to Penelope's whole explanation because I'm busy trying to parse the pulse of emotion she's trying to make as obvious as possible. Leave it to Penelope to figure out a way to turn my lie detector into a secret messaging system. She wants me to contradict her. You should do it anyway, I say, seeing no reason not to go along with her scheme. Penelope falls scowls. Why? Immortality research is obviously more important. But this is more immediate, I argue, and find myself believing it. Better to have Sky like us, isn't it? Being stuck in a shitty body sucks. Also, it would help us since we're planning to double-cross him before the truce ends. If anyone can convince him to lower his guard, it's Penelope. You don't think that your situation is very different after all, do you, Vita? Penelope asks, chewing on the inside of her lip. I start to try to figure out what I'm supposed to say but realize that her question is honest this time. Does she mean the body thing? I mean, yeah, I guess, I admit. It sounds the same to me. Penelope looks between me and Capita, then back to me. Do you want me to alter your treatments? She asks. I blink. You mean to look like a man? No. I mean, I don't really care. You can if you want to, but you can also not if you don't want to. It doesn't matter if I look male or female, I still don't look like me. The feeling of revulsion at myself has been growing slowly ever since I hatched, but there is nothing Penelope can do to fix that. It's not that my body is wrong, it's that I don't want a body at all. I just don't think about it wherever I can. Somehow, it's both easier and more difficult ever since my soul spread through the inside of my body. On one hand, I'm significantly more me-shaped, not because my body changed to look like me but because I changed to look more like my body. On the other hand, I now have to more intimately feel this increasingly disgusting meat vessel, and it is less than pleasant. Penelope stares thoughtfully at me for a while longer before finally turning back to Capita. Fine, she says. I make no promises, but I will look him over and see what I can come up with. If nothing else, it will be an excellent learning experience. With a squeal of joy, Capita immediately starts teleporting circles around Theodora before finally teleporting next to Penelope and scooping her up into a big hug. Thank you, Spiky Bubbles. Get off of me before I give you more warts than hair follicles. This has been my weirdest weird mask day yet. Chapter 98. I take a deep breath and hold it, pulling in mana from my ocean. The warm waters of my true self wash through me, calming and reassuring. I am more than what I seem to be, and this truth is unassailable. Regretfully, I return focus to my meat, specifically my hands as I move and shape the mana into intricate patterns. I open my eyes, let out my breath, and let the spell complete. A dazzling blue copy of my eye appears in the air, tentacles writhing, and I smile as I watch Rowan's eyebrows raise in a mixture of pride and surprise. Nice work, Vita. It's pretty obviously an illusion, but a very complex one. Lots of moving parts. You're visualizing all of this at once? I'm cheating a little, I admit. Well, I'd be quite the hypocrite to disapprove of cheating, but what do you mean, exactly? This is me. I tell him happily, pushing the core of my soul down my arm and overlapping it with the illusion so that he can see me move in real time. I'm visualizing it by watching myself move. This is my soul. It's been about a month since Weird Mask Day, or the Skyhope Festival as Penelope incorrectly insists that it is called, and during that time I have been very busy doing a lot of nothing. I spar with Lynn sometimes, and I have been learning kinemancy from Rowan, but frankly most of that has just been excuses to hang out with my family as much as possible. It's honestly really weird doing so. I actually know the names of all my siblings now, though that took quite a bit of effort to memorize. Having food, energy, and free time seems to have turned the kids into completely different people, but I suppose that's to be expected. We no longer have significant blocks of the day spent cowering or begging or stealing, so there are new things to do. Of course, that doesn't stop a lot of the kids from trying to go out and steal things anyway, which I understand. It's the one skill many of them have, and it feels like we have nothing else to do with our time. Others are training to fight, watching Lynn and I spar and taking lessons. I can't say I'm a big fan of that, but it will be years before any of them actually get into danger unless one of them happens on a lucky talent, so it's a problem that I can kick down the road. Unfortunately, kicking problems down the road seems to continue being a habit. I am really happy lately. It's nice to not have anything I have to kill, it's nice to just be able to feel my family be happy, to soak in that satisfying joy that I accomplished. But in the back of my head, there's a constant tapping. A little reminder that won't stay quiet, telling me that I don't have much time left to become more powerful than Sky. That my deadline for betrayal is closing, that every moment I waste not getting more powerful is a moment I will regret when danger once more knocks on my door. This joy is wonderful, but it is wrong. I shouldn't be sitting here feeling satisfied, because that complacency is exactly the flaw that caused so many of my problems up until this point. I'm not fulfilling my promise to myself. I'm not being proactive. I'm going with the flow, reacting with whatever feels right in the moment, and I know it's wrong no matter how much I love it. I should not be here. I am really happy I finally have this kinemancy spell down, though. That's what you look like? Rowan asks. Well, it's nice to see you, I suppose. He makes an illusion of his own, a copy of himself, and pretends to shake one of my tentacles with it. Ooh. Ronnie cheers, running up to us. He's one of the youngest ones, probably only 5 or 6. What's my soul look like? There was a minor token effort on behalf of Lynn, Rowan, and I to not let the kids know that I'm an animancer, since their ignorance is very literally for their own protection. Under Skyhope law, knowing about what I am and not reporting it is a serious crime, potentially even treason based on the circumstances, but frankly the kids are too smart and I am too shitty at keeping secrets for that facade to last very long. It's probably fine. Lynn and Rowan didn't raise snitches. Well, your soul is still growing and developing, but currently it looks like this, I say, shifting the illusion showing my tentacular beauty into a small, black sphere with hints of dark purples blooming around the outside. I look like a bruise, Ronnie whines. That just means you're tough, I answer, grinning at him. That earns me a grin back, and soon I have every kid currently in the house running up and asking me to show them souls. Most of them are similar to Ronnie's, mainly black with splashes of one other color growing out of it. For a few of them, I can make educated guesses on what their talents might be based on the feel, but I don't voice that information out loud in fear of disappointing anyone if I'm wrong, or worse, having to tell some of the kids that I don't think they'll get talents at all. A knock on the door from Penelope spares most such worries, thankfully. She's a little early for the usual checkup, but not by much. The rest of the kids should be trickling in soon so they can receive their treatments. Good morning, everyone, Penelope says, nodding politely. Morning, Penelope, I respond, grinning her way. Emoting is annoying, but I'm relearning it. She smiles back, and it's always nice to see the rare occasions where her face matches her true emotions. Usually her feelings are squeezed, constrained, and regulated. She's always spending a background amount of effort ensuring whatever her body shows holds some advantage for her rather than just letting it react to how she really feels. When she discards that, though, her emotions come through brighter, her song plays clearer. It's pleasantly soothing. She has a backpack today, though she just sets it down when she sits and grabs the first volunteer for treatments, smacking any hands that reach out to grab it. From there, the treatments proceed as normal. When it's my turn, Penelope spends a lot more time yanking around my eye than usual, making considering hums to herself. Looks like your eyes are more or less done, she says. It's all blue now. Have you been getting any odd looks? A few more than usual, I guess, I answer with a shrug. Does it really look that weird? It's rather striking, yes. In a good way, I think, but you're certainly hard to forget. I wouldn't be surprised if you have somewhat of a reputation. I nod glumly. I'm out of the house a lot, doing things like buying food or picking up my wages from the Hunters Guild, earned from the solo missions I do around town nowadays. They are all pathetically easy, but no one else seems to want to do them since about 90% of the monsters in the city are in the sewers. Our team is more or less gone forever, and I've yet to be placed on a new one. Teams that lose their scout tend to not come back at all, so it's difficult to slot me into a damaged group, and I've made it clear that I'm not currently looking for a new one anyway. Penelope keeps to the medical ward, Orville has joined a different team, and I haven't seen Bentley since he quit. I kind of want to track him down, but what would I say? Thanks for not outing me to the Templars? Anyway, Penelope is right. Between my eyes and the fact that everyone with the danger sense nearly shits themselves when I walk by, I am quickly becoming a known quantity. The reactions I get are becoming less "what the fuck is that?" and more "oh no, it's her again." I don't really know what to do about it, though, so I just do nothing. Seems to be working out so far. Penelope's treatments have been lasting longer and longer, but I don't really mind. I have no idea what all she's doing to me, but I trust her. I like that I can trust her. She pokes me and prods me all over, but I never feel like I'm in danger like I do with anyone else. It's kind of nice, especially since she rarely lapses into bursts of uncomfortable emotions while working, staying primly professional or at least distracted throughout our procedures. It's comfortable, and we have plenty of time to talk. You've done a few procedures on Sky now, right? I ask. How has that been going? Infuriatingly annoying, Penelope grumbles. He insists on keeping 2 other biomancers in the room with us, and he wants me to teach them everything I do to him. They are barely competent enough to prevent me from just lying about it. So you regretfully admit he's not stupid enough to just let you walk in and kill him? I snort. I regretfully admit he's not stupid enough to just let me walk in and kill him, Penelope sighs. Which I expected, but it's still somewhat disappointing. No slowly weakening his heart until he passes out from normal exertion while I'm on the other side of the city. I could still kill him with a disease, and it's hilarious to me that he thinks his pathetic excuses for biomancers could do anything about it, but it's the same sort of situation as the one you described to me shortly after we first met. He would die, but not fast enough, I recall. And when he realizes he's dying, it's mutually assured destruction. Exactly, Penelope confirms. I've ensured that you and I are going to be an absolute mess for anyone to try and kill. A lot of these procedures will improve your capacity to survive even if I'm not there to heal you. Still, if anyone could manage it, Sky could. His talent is one of the strongest I've ever seen. Oh, you can do stuff that makes people harder to kill? I ask. Would you mind doing that for the kids? Penelope gives a very slight chuckle, soft and quick, as some worry in her soul gets a little lighter. Why Vida, I would love to. Thanks. I say. That takes a load off my mind. But are you still doing the thing with Sky? Yes. I didn't actually expect to be able to cleanly assassinate him this way, so it's no real loss. Though at the same time, I didn't expect him to agree either. I figured Capita would try to convince him to work with me and just fail miserably. Yet she persisted for damn near a month, and now I spent nearly an hour of every other day getting berated by a petite two-bit hoodlum. Turns out he's lying to you about not having many funds, however. Either that or I'm draining his operation dry. Well, I trust that you'll be able to get some information out of it, I say. Thanks for doing it. Are you sure you're going to be safe without me there? You don't need to worry about me, Vida, Penelope scoffs. I'm not stupid enough to let him take me anywhere he could attack without consequences. Besides, mutually assured destruction goes both ways. I give her a considering look. If someone actually does manage to kill you, what will happen? I ask. She just laughs, and though the rest of the house gives her worried glances at the sound of it, I'm just happy she's looking forward to it. If someone is that dumb, I'll do my best to make sure you get to watch the aftermath, I promise. Much appreciated, Vida, she chuckles. So, I was wondering. Do you have any plans for the rest of the day? I frown. She knows that I don't, but I tell her so anyway because that's a social thing people do. In that case, Penelope says slowly, I was wondering if you wanted to go out? I freeze. Did I hear that right? No. Oh no. She's actually doing it. What do I say? I want to say no. It's not personal, I care about Penelope. She's amazing. She literally changed my life. But I'm not attracted to women, I'm attracted to men against my will, and I don't want to date anybody. Certainly not a noble. I don't want to go to fancy dinners or plays, I don't want to hobnob with the upper class, I don't want to have to be a part of some clandestine plot to hide from and or murder her current fiancé. But I don't want to tell her no either. I don't want to lose her. What do I, Vida, Penelope says, her lips pursed with amusement. I meant outside the walls. To the forest? Oh. Well. I guess that sounds pretty fun. I've been meaning to do that anyway. You want to come with? I ask her. She chuckles. That's what I'm asking, yes. She taps her chest with her knuckles, letting the dull thud-thud show she's armored and ready. You think I'm going to let you break your legs alone out there? The backpack has plenty of water and some food that I can actually stomach, and I've taken the liberty of giving notice to the guild. We should be good to rampage for a few days, if you like. I grin and immediately lean in to give her a huge hug, which she returns while radiating an aura of overwhelming smugness. I'd love to. I say. What brought this on all of a sudden? Stress. And of course Johan has been bugging me to get some damn time off, so I figured why not commit some morally blameless genocide with my best friend. And partner in crime. I add. And queen among slaves, she finishes, eminently amused. Indeed. I know we get to see each other every day for the treatments, but it's always work, work, work. I think we deserve a little fun, and you deserve a lot of food. I promise not to complain about whatever insane thing you decide to put in your mouth if you promise to leave a few monsters alive for me to experiment on. Deal, as long as you help me prepare it all for eating. She sighs extra dramatically. Fine. If you must twist my arm over it. Heck yes. I cheer. I'm already in my armor, since I always dress in my armor, so I just grab a bit more gear and then the two of us are ready to go. This is exciting. With Penelope's help, I'll be eating the whole forest in no time. We wander out to the walls, chatting about what we did yesterday and other nothings. A quick check by the guards and we are outside, vast tans and greens replacing the dirt and stone of the city. The forest is ahead of us, and I do my best to focus on the scents in the air, the colors on the ground, the feeling of wind on my skin. These things aren't as beautiful to me as they used to be. I can see that, when I look for it, and I realize it's a loss. I don't really know what to do about it, though. I wish I didn't hate my body. I wish I wasn't disgusted by things that I never used to despise. My hatching changed me, took humanity away from me and crushed it. I knew that from the start, and frankly I would never dream of going back. I just wish I could have kept the best of both worlds. I wish I could feel the wind and smell the air without the background of dread and wrongness. I want to retreat back into my comfortable soul, ignore my body, ignore its upsides because they really aren't worth the so many parts of it that I hate. But that has its own problems. I'm stuck. Trapped between two imperfect aspects, faulty flesh and half-grown soul. Neither is a substitute for the other, no matter how much I wish they were. We enter the forest together, and I take a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the hollow, wet pair of sacs inside me expand as they suck in foul, monosaturated air, then push it out as reedy bands of muscle press them back together. Suffer through it. I may not like my body, but I still need it. So, Penelope asks, glancing slightly down at me. Actually at me. She'd cast its soul sight once we got away from the city. Where to first? Everywhere, I answer with a shrug. We're just looking for a monster too dumb to run or too slow to succeed. And then, I cut myself off a little, knowing that she's really going to like what I have to say next but fearing that it might be one of those things she likes a little bit too much. Oh, screw it. This is Penelope. She saved my life, she saved my whole family, and there probably isn't anyone in the world that understands me better. She deserves this. Would you like an army? I ask her. I swear, her grin nearly splits her head in half. Tope continued. Thanks for listening.